Shut up for a bit.
Sineil's voice was cold as he clamped a hand gently but firmly over Estephania's mouth. Her eyes widened in shock. The suddenness of his touch, the sharpness in his tone, it left her frozen. "You keep blathering," he muttered, his gaze piercing. Blathering? The word echoed in Estephania's mind, stinging more than she expected. Then, just as quickly, Sineil withdrew his hand and sat beside her, his posture calm, but his eyes anything but. "You accept that kind of treatment," he said, voice low and simmering with anger. "And you keep laughing like an idiot." Estephania blinked. "Was I laughing?" she asked softly, unsure. Then, trying to explain, she added, "But Elliot brought me food properly. He also changed the water. It was my fault that I fell sick." "Estephania," Sineil interrupted. Her breath caught. He had called her by name. Did he really just call me Estephania? She thought, stunned. Sineil-sama never called anyone by name. In all the stories, in all the records, he never bothered remembering names unless absolutely necessary. And even then, he never used them casually, not unless it was her, Angelica. And yet, he just said, "mine." "It's unpleasant," Sineil said sharply. "What is?" she asked, confused. "Your strange spirit for self-sacrifice," he snapped. "I'm angry just watching you." She started to mumble an apology. But he didn't let her finish. "Don't get used to being despised," he said firmly. "Raise your head and show me your face. Even if that was once your defense, it's no longer necessary." That's right, Estephania thought, her heart trembling. This is the Sineil-sama I knew, the one who says things like this without hesitation. That's why I fell in love with him. Then his tone shifted, quieter, more possessive. "This may be temporary or whatever they want to call it," he said, brushing her hair back behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her skin. "But I'm not fond of others touching what's mine." He leaned in just slightly, eyes locked with hers. "Estephania, you are my woman." "Steffi, I'm back." "Your meal has come." Yuchi burst through the door, cheerful and full of energy, holding a tray of food with both hands. But the moment he stepped inside, the mood in the room shifted. Silence fell like a curtain. Everyone turned to stare, sharp, unreadable glances. A thick tension settled in the air. Yuchi paused mid-step, blinking at the heavy atmosphere. Sorry, did I interrupt something?" he said with a teasing smile, trying to ease the mood as he turned, about to step back out the door. "Wait, Yuchi, no, don't leave." Estephania's voice rang out, hurried and sincere, stopping him in his tracks. "Ah!" Estephania's eyes widened as Yuchi suddenly held up a spoonful of food toward her mouth. Flustered, she hesitated, but with no real way to refuse, she shyly opened her mouth and took the bite. She slowly chewed, still stunned by his forwardness. "You don't have to go this far, Yuchi. I can eat by myself," she said softly, trying to regain a little dignity. "But I want to," Yuchi replied, his voice warm, his eyes gently pleading. "Can I?" Estephania froze. If it were just Yuchi here, it might be okay, she thought. But her eyes flicked towards Sineil, who was still sitting quietly nearby, watching them, watching her, with that intense, unreadable gaze. "I can't eat calmly like this," she thought nervously. Sensing the tension, Yuchi turned to Sineil. "Master," he said politely, "if you're here, it'll be hard for Steffi to eat." Estephania's heart skipped. He didn't just say that. But Sineil didn't say a word. With a sharp glint in his eyes and an unreadable expression, he simply vanished. Is that really okay? Estephania asked, still staring at the spot where Sineil had just been. Totally no problem, Yuchi grinned. All right, here, aha! He held out another spoonful with exaggerated cheer. Without another word, Estephania let him feed her, bite after bite, and when she'd finished the last of the meal, still unsure how to feel, Yuchi softly called her name. Steffi. Did you know I can't use healing magic on Nomas? Yuchi asked, his voice casual but curious. I know that, Estephania replied, raising an eyebrow. But why are you asking? Why do you think it's like that? He countered, watching her closely. Estephania blinked. Why ask me? She thought, scrambling through her memory. I think I read it in a book once, but I can't remember. He caught me off guard. Yuchi didn't wait for her to answer. With a playful gleam in his eyes, he pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose. Okay then, Yuchi-sensei's special class begins now. What? Estephania stared at him, bewildered. Let's start with a quick review, Yuchi said, already in teacher mode. Everyone in this world is born with a certain amount of magical power. Those whose magical levels exceed the standard threshold can use magic. He pointed to a chalkboard, as if it had appeared out of thin air. The amount of magical power one can have is determined at birth. That means you can tell whether a baby will grow up to be a magic user or not from the very start. Estephania sat up straighter, listening carefully. Now, here's the problem, Yuchi announced dramatically. If someone is born as a Noma, what are their chances of becoming a magic user later in life? Maybe 30%? Estephania guessed hesitantly. Boo! Yuchi crossed his arms with mock disappointment. Wrong. Sorry, she said, embarrassed. The correct answer is 0%, he said firmly. No matter how hard a Noma tries, they can't increase their magical power beyond the set value they were born with, and if they try to force it, if they try to artificially increase their magical power, the energy inside their body will spiral out of control, and they'll die. Estephania's eyes widened. 0%? She repeated in shock. Exactly, Yuchi said. So if I cast healing magic on a Noma, it's like I'm temporarily increasing their magical power from the outside. She nodded slowly, thinking it through. So that means you shouldn't use healing magic on a Noma? Correct, Yuchi beamed. As expected of Steffi, you catch on so fast. That's because Yuchi explained it in such an easy-to-understand way, she said with a small smile. Before coming to the Central, I already knew healing magic wouldn't work on a Noma like me, Estephania thought silently. That's why I never expected a miracle. I came here for one reason only, to meet Sineil-sama. I knew better than to cling to the false hope that my illness could be cured. Snapping out of her thoughts, she looked at Yuchi and asked, By the way, why are you suddenly bringing this up? Yuchi didn't answer immediately. Instead, he glanced toward the room behind them. Well, while you were sleeping here, I went back to check the room you stayed in before, he said calmly. While I was there, I noticed the bucket in the corner. The water inside. It had turned a murky red. Estephania froze. If I used appraisal magic, I could confirm it instantly, he added, eyes narrowing. That was your blood, wasn't it? Steffi. He leaned forward slightly, voice quieter but heavy with concern. Hey, Steffi, what are you hiding? Estephania's breath caught. Her heart pounded. For a moment, she couldn't speak, shocked that someone had finally noticed what she'd been trying so hard to conceal. You said earlier you had no injuries, right? Yuchi asked, his eyes narrowing with concern. Estephania panicked inwardly. I can't tell him about my illness. I'll have to lie. I didn't mention it because it wasn't a big deal, she said casually. I was so hungry. I got dizzy and hit my head a little. It bled a bit, but they let me use that bucket of water to wash it off. Blood from your head? Yuchi's expression changed instantly, alarmed. Where? Show me. Calm down, really, it's not a serious injury, she insisted, waving her hands gently. There's no way I can calm down after hearing that you bled from your head, he exclaimed. I think I might have exaggerated too much, she thought nervously. The wound's already closed, she reassured him. There's really no need to worry. Yuchi looked at her seriously. Can I believe you? Yep, I'm sorry for making you worry, she said with a soft smile. He sighed, then spoke gently. Like I said before, I can't use healing magic on a Noma like you. That's why, really please, avoid getting hurt or falling sick, okay? Yuchi, she whispered, touched by the sincerity in his voice. Why are you being so kind to me when we've only just met? Yuchi paused, then smiled, a quiet, gentle smile that felt strangely comforting. Because Steffi is a hard worker, he said simply. Estephania blinked, stunned. I don't really think I've done anything to be called that. In the end, she thought, I never got a real answer to why he's so kind to me, but I did learn one thing. Yuchi's mature smile has the power to calm my heart. Oh, right. If you like, you can change into this dress, Yuchi said, holding out a beautifully folded garment. Is it really okay? Estephania asked, hesitating. Yes, it was made just for you, Steffi, he replied with a cheerful nod. You made it? She asked, surprised. Not me, he chuckled. I had it made by a mage who's really good at crafting clothes. A mage who's good at making clothes, she thought. Could it be? I'm not sure if that mage truly made it for me, but even so, this time, I have to say thank you, she said sincerely. By the way, Yuchi added, it was Master who instructed the mage to make the dress. Sineil-sama did? Estephania asked in disbelief. And he's the one who brought you to this room, Yuchi continued. No way. It wasn't you? She blinked. Yuchi smiled gently. Maybe because of Elliot you misunderstood, but there's no way Master despises his fiancée. Well, she thought, maybe if I really was his fiancée, I'd believe all this was thanks to Sineil-sama too. Aren't you his real fiancée? Yuchi asked. Huh? She blinked again. Ah, well, I think it'd be better if you heard the full story from Sineil-sama himself, he said. Just to be sure, did he explain anything to you? Nope, no explanation at all, Yuchi shrugged. He just said, Steffi is my fiancée, take good care of her. That was it. Yuchi, Estephania started to say, but before she could finish, her clothes shimmered and, in a flash of gentle magic, she was suddenly wearing the elegant dress. It flowed around her like moonlight. There you go, Yuchi said, pleased. There's still so much I want to talk about, but for now, you really need to rest. Wait, Yuchi, she said softly, reaching out. I'm sorry, she thought, lowering her hand. Even if I've changed rooms, the fear from that night, the trauma, it doesn't just disappear overnight. Actually, she began again. Yuchi turned to her, attentive. That eye, the giant one, she said slowly. Yuchi raised a brow. A giant eye? Just to clarify. It only appeared once, but I can't forget it. No matter what, she said, voice trembling. It's not just Elliot's fault I can't sleep. I see, Yuchi murmured. Do you know what it really is? She asked. He hesitated, then gave a small smile. The best time to find out is at night. So until then, let's get some rest. With a gentle touch, he placed a finger on her forehead. A soft glow passed between them as a sleep spell settled over her like a warm blanket. Good night, Estephania, he whispered. Sweet dreams. That night, Estephania stirred from sleep, her vision still hazy. As her eyes blinked open, she was startled to find Sineil sitting silently by her bedside, watching over her. Who? She whispered, her voice barely audible. You're awake, Sineil replied, his tone calm. Eyes wide in surprise, Estephania quickly sat up in bed, But before she could gather her thoughts, Sineil gently reached for her, lifting her into his arms with quiet ease. "Wait, what are you doing?" she asked, confusion rushing through her as he carried her effortlessly toward the open window. In her mind, all she could think was, "What is happening?" "Look down," Sineil said, pausing just outside the window ledge. She hesitated, then obeyed. Her gaze dropped, and what she saw stunned her. Mages gathered below, standing in formation, and at the center, a large white beast rested calmly on the ground. "That's the creature you saw," Sineil explained. Her heart skipped. Could it be? She thought. It moved in a surprisingly gentle way, calmly seated among the magic users. A familiar? The realization sank in. So, that was the truth. A creature bound to a mage, obedient through magical control. The fear she had once held toward it began to crumble. Seeing the beast now, with its true nature revealed, it looked oddly cute. The memories that once haunted her suddenly felt distant. Something as simple as knowing the truth made all the fear melt away, she thought. I guess Yuchi told him about what I saw, but I never imagined Sineil-sama would show himself. She turned her eyes to him. Sineil-sama, thank you for—" Her words caught in her throat. Before she could speak another word, his lips touched hers.